So as of late, this is the noise the fan on the hot end of my Monoprice Mini V2 has been making. I think it's got a bearing out, and as you can tell, this would quickly get annoying. So to rectify this, today I'm going to be working on installing this Noctua AF-4x20, which is a 40 by 40 by 20 millimeter fan. This is a PWM version, and as you can see, sometimes it quits, but it'll come back. And I'm just going to make a video of how I install this, because I've seen some people on the subreddit having some issues with the voltage and not getting the fan to spin up properly, so we're just going to see how it goes. Now, because this fan was around $16 delivered, I would like to avoid cutting into the factory wiring as much as I can, and luckily they've included a variety of adapters and such that we can use. I think I'm going to use this 4-pin to 2-pin adapter, which goes right on here, and that'll allow me to go right into the red and black leads on the printer. But what I am debating doing is using this 4-pin extension cable and running it all the way along the hook and up into the frame of the printer. And the only reason I would do that just is so this connector wouldn't be showing when you looked at it, because it would obviously not fit underneath the wire wrap, and that might just be a neater way of doing it. But before we do any of that, we have to print out a new shroud for the fan, because we won't be able to print it when we have no fan installed. So that's what we're going to do first. So the particular shroud I chose to print out was the one by FDM Guru. There's the stock opening, and there is the 40 millimeter opening, and it goes on the printer just like this, I believe. And also, just out of curiosity, I hooked the new fan with the 2-wire adapter up to a 12-volt power supply just to see what the voltage required for this fan to turn on is. So I'm going to see what that might be. See, it's jumping a little bit, about 4.5. 5.93 will go to fine adjustment. It's like right at about 6.6 or 6.5 volts to turn on. Go ahead and turn it on up to 12. And this thing really is silent. Most of the noise you're hearing is actually out of the back of the power supply, but there's the little fan. And the next step is to take off the old one and see how we're going to put the new one on. So I went ahead and soldered the new fan pigtail onto the stock fan wiring. I decided not to use the extension cable. As you can see, the fan's powered on. I've just got it resting there with the new shroud, and I've got the wire wrap and the zip tie removed, and that's just mostly to test fit and make sure the fan works. But I decided to just deal with the connector sticking up and go from there. So here everything is all buttoned up. I went ahead and used the screws to attach it to the shroud, and as you can see, I've re-zip tied and re-wire wrapped everything. The connector does stick up a little bit, but it was less involved to do that than it would have been to take the cover off and route the extension through. And even with the extension, there would have been a connector, so I decided to just use that. Here's a picture of the final product in mid first print with the new fan. And one thing I did want to address is that some members on the subreddit and online had experienced an issue where they thought they may have shorted out the fan controller chip on the printer, and I think that may have been the case with me. I was probing around with a multimeter trying to check the voltage, and next thing I knew, when I plugged the new fan in, it started running all the time. So from the minute the printer is on to the minute you turn it off, it runs no matter what the printer's doing or what your G-code says. But for me, that's not an issue. I mostly print PLA, so I'm generally going to want that fan on, plus it's so quiet that it's not going to be a disruption. So I wish I could have told you my magical settings to make the fan respond to the printer, but I'm faced with what I got, and the fan I think is going to work great for my purposes. It's tons quieter, and definitely an all-around good upgrade for $16 or so. I'm thinking about buying another one to do the motherboard fan on the back of the case, so I'll certainly do a video on that one if I do. But till then, thank you for watching this one. Once again, it's a great upgrade for your Monoprice Mini V2.